Guy, we're here to talk about O, which is your rebranded, pared down to just one letter, Festival of Opera in Rotterdam, which is no longer, I suppose, a Festival of Opera. Now you're now calling it O Opera Music Theatre. And so in a way, the one thing that we shouldn't be expecting from the festival days is a nice Zeffirelli production of La Bohème.
No, surely not. And that's also one of the reasons why we changed the name. So we have our 15th anniversary this year. So we started 15 years ago. When at that moment, there was an idea to build an opera house in Rotterdam, because there is only one opera house in Holland, which is in Amsterdam. And the city of Rotterdam people had a vague idea to build close to the river a new opera house. And they asked me, that's why I got involved, to write a plan for it. And then when I came up with the idea how much it would cost to run an opera, then there was money for a building, but there was no money for the actual thing that had to be done inside. So a lot of the partners in the city decided then to start with a festival and with the ambition to do large-scale operas, but that never happened. And at that moment, the name was chosen, Opera Days, Opera Dagen, and little by little it became a different festival, more music theater based or based on operas, but we never really did a Puccini full scale or Verdi. In the beginning years, a little bit in a concert version with Rotterdam Philharmonic, but then we decided to stop it because in Amsterdam you could see better operas in full scale, so we decided to focus more on the new forms of opera and music theater. And after 15 years, we thought, well, maybe it's the time to change the name, because it was also still for people a little bit strange. Where is the opera? And also in the beginning, the press said sometimes, oh, a wonderful festival, but again, there was no opera. So now we keep the O for opera and for many other things.
In many ways, it's sort of back to the 1960s in Dutch theatre, isn't it? I mean, it's the sense that the experimental theatre, the black box, is being blown apart yet again for the 21st century. You've got operas that would shock the average dinner-jacketed patron in the Met or in Glyndebourne, and you've got things which are very site-specific, are video-specific, are jazz and rock-based. Tell me some of the things that you've got coming up in the next few days.
Yes, I'm the artistic director of the festival, but I don't necessarily want to bring only my taste. I think it's important that our festival, and that's our strength, we're not a big festival. I mean, we have about 200 performances in the coming week, but our budget is not like another opera festival. So we decide to show what's around in music theater, and of course the quality is number one, and we want to bring also new names to the forefront. And I think that's the importance we got in the last years, that a lot of our international colleagues also visit the festival because they want to see new names, and maybe people are starting. We also say that it's a festival where people can fail, so we also have a full day package where you can see 5-6 different productions in a day, and also our audience has grown into that, and they say, oh, I don't really like this show, but the next one will be better. And then in the end of the day, you have a good overview, and it's the styles are, as you say, are completely different. Sometimes you have indeed a very adventurous video opera or a VR production, but we also have, for example, a Rigoletto, which is done in a fairly traditional way, but it's with actors based on the Victor Hugo story and with opera singers. And we also start a whole new line of operettas now, so where there's a wonderful theater maker in Holland, and he's finding the old operettas again. So it's going from the VR experience to operetta. And since we don't have an opera house, we decided from the very start to use the whole city as our stage. And that's what you also mentioned. There's a lot of site-specific work. So we go out in the city, and this is one of the strengths we have, I think, to experience the pieces in different venues.
One of the things I loved there was an opera company that I know, which is Opera Today, responding to the times with one called Quarantine Island. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, this is there is an island that I knew of in Rotterdam, which is what was created to quarantine the salesmen that because it's a large harbor, and it was from the 19th century, I think, maybe even before. But there are buildings from the early 20th century to where the ships came in that people stayed there for several months and. It was never really used. Once was a pock epidemic, and then there were, but of course at the time now it was really very actual and new to experience the epidemic and to say, okay, we can do something in the quarantine island. And Opera Today is a new partner, especially for the site-specific projects, and we have the premiere of their new piece that we did together. So we asked stories of people who knew people who were in that island, and then then we also have actually made an sort of an opera piece on the epidemics from the beginning of mankind to now. So it's a walk through the island, and the buildings are wonderful. They're, as I said, early 19th century, 30s, and it's near the water. So you're on the front, the beach. There's a little beach, so it's an experience, and that's what we usually like to do. Last time we did the old hospital was going to be demolished, and the owner called us that it's there for 2 months if you want to do a show. And then we did a bit the same thing. We asked people who worked there to give their stories, and we did a wonderful walk to the old hospital. It's usually very emotional, and it's for people who come from out of the city, it's interesting to discover, but for people from the city, of course, it's really intriguing because they see the venue again, and they see it in a different way.
And you've also got pieces that actually show that the origins of operas are never, you can never run out of ideas for them. So you've got reinterpretations of Antigone, haven't you?
Yes, it's a wonderful group from Greece. For me, they were one of the most clever groups in the pandemic because they decided, we worked with them before, but now they started doing things online. I've seen a lot of things online, and I like them, but also got a bit bored by it because it's not a live experience. But what they did is rework the Antigone from a female perspective, which of course is also new, but they linked 7 cities in Europe, but in a live way. And so as an audience, you were put into a room with somebody in Copenhagen or somewhere else. So you also saw with whom you were in the group, and then you were with the singer and it had a very intimate aspect. And now, because they can do it live again, they have a mixture of live and online. So it's an experiment that happened through what we all had to do in the pandemic. But I think it's one of the good examples how you can deal with an old history and then talking about our problems now and still be connected international, because we are an international festival. But of course, we don't have as many international guests as usual. But in that way, we have a small group from Athens and then connecting to at least 7 cities in the world.
And rock opera goes back to Tommy and the Who in the 1970s, but you've got some new takes on that as well, haven't you?
Yes, there are quite a lot of young artists that are really, because we all know that opera wasn't a very fashionable word. It was also said in the 60s it will die, and when I started working in the opera in the 80s, then people said, well, it's for old people. But now everybody I see wants to make an opera. Of course, the definition of opera is completely different than what we think of. It's not a 19th century idea anymore, but that's what I like. All the young people say, before it was music theater, now they all say we want to make an opera. And I think, okay, make an opera, it doesn't matter. And of course, it's a lot of even techno opera, but a lot of rock operas also. There's a wonderful ensemble in Holland, the Rosa Ensemble. They're famous. They are going to create a rock opera. I'm very curious to see, but there are others as well. So it's very exciting to also get a new audience. And with what we're also trying to do now is a thing called First Dates, where we bring also artists from pop and rock together with opera singers, and it's a half an hour event where we put people together. They haven't rehearsed, and you just attend their first dates. And it's also to get to know each other's voices, because the artists, they don't know each other's voices, and but also for the different audiences because we, as you said, we skip the word opera, but on the other hand, we want to bring opera to as many people who don't think opera is for them, because we always know that once they hear an opera voice, they say, "Wow, what's this?" But so that's why we play with the O.
Let's hope it's love at first sight. In a way, you're going back to the origins of opera, which was always site-specific, which was always intimate, which used the contemporary art of the time, that was not about necessarily about elites. It was about presenting things in as close a way to real life as possible. And that was the early 17th century idea. And somehow we're coming back to that at the beginning of the 21st.
Yeah, it's true. And people can hear the voices indeed in a very intimate space, and experience the warmth and the technique, but you can see it close up. And that, but one of my best experiences, what we like to do is bring different backgrounds together. For example, we had an Iranian group last year, and they never heard of Monteverdi, and we put a Baroque ensemble from Holland. They did Monteverdi arias, and then the Iranians brought the music from the same moment from the 15th, 16th century, and it melted so beautifully, the voices also, and it was one of the most powerful poetic events. And the Iranians said, "Wow, Monteverdi, what's this?" And they said, "Oh, now we want to do a Monteverdi in Iran as well." So these sort of experiences in a smaller venue, when you're there, I think Monteverdi, when it was created in a castle, it had the experience. Must have been the same experience that you had touched, and it was very direct, and that's what we like.
Guy, thank you very much. Good luck with the opera days that are now just one big O.
Thank you very much.